Alright, in this lesson we are going to start to go over the position property. And the position properties, there are 5 different position values: static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. So the first position is static. And these go in order in how they're shown on our HTML page. So you can see here we have a parent, child 1, child 2, child 3, and fx1. And they just kind of fall in line on the page as they are written on our code. So the static is not affected by the right, left, top, and bottom properties that you can use on relative and absolute. Those won't work with static. And static also is the default. So you probably won't see it typed too often. You don't have to type it because it will still do the same thing. So if you run it without it, it will still show up the same. So next is the position relative. This position is relative to its normal position. It is the same as static in that it follows the same HTML page order. However, relative can have its position altered by the top, bottom, right, and left properties. Here you can see this has the left property of 30 pixels. So this can alter the positioning of where this div element is on the page. So you can see here left 30 pixels, so that's 30 pixels. If we change it to 0 and run it, it moves it to the very end. This is our 0 point. We can add the top property and maybe add 30 pixels. And you can see it moves 30 pixels from the top down. You can also use percentages. Let's just go 50%. And that'll give us 50% of the page. So this is 50%. So this is basically another way of positioning using the left top, and you can also use bottom and right. So next we have absolute. Now in our static and relative, they were positioned in the relative order. Now whereas absolute, these elements are positioned to its nearest positioned ancestor. So here we have our relative div, and you can see that it comes after our text. So our text is here, and then right after that we have our div, the relative div, and that is right here. And then within our relative we have our absolute div, which is right here. Now absolutes they work really well when they're like related to a relative element like this. So it's good we can position this element wherever we want to within this div element of the relative. So you can see here we have top 80 and right 0. So basically the right is 0 because it starts at 0 on the right, and our top 80, which means it's 80 pixels from the top. So let's try moving or changing our top to bottom 0. So that will change it from, it'll go down here, will be 0. And maybe we'll move it from the right, which will start here at 0 from the right. If we change that to maybe 10 pixels, it'll move a little bit over to the right. So we'll change this to 10 pixels. You can see here it's moved to the bottom and to the right 10 pixels. So basically with these elements you can change the positioning of your box. So the next position is fixed. So like relative and absolute, we can use the left, bottom, right, and top properties over here. But But this position is relative to the viewport. You can see down here that this one is fixed in the viewport, and this is the code for it. So basically, that means that this element is going to stay in the same place even when the page is scrolled. You can also see when we move the viewport, it stays in that fixed position. So here we have our bottom and our right at 30 pixels from the bottom, which means it's moved 30 pixels up this way and 30 pixels from the right. You kind of see it's 0. Let's go ahead and run that if it works. Okay, you can see it, and that will place it in that corner right there. And you can just keep moving it around with changing those values. And so the last position is sticky. It is positioned relative here until it is given to a offset position met in the viewport, and then it sticks in place like a fixed position. So here you can see here it's relative, and it just moves with the scroll, and then it stops right here and acts like a fixed position as it scrolls through the rest of the text. Looking at this one too much.